Welcome back to the Smart Driving Cars podcast. We appreciate you spending time with us once again, and we have another great session for you. This edition is made possible by CARTS, the Corporation for Automated Road Transportation Safety, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to safe and high-quality mobility for all. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alan Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Hey, good morning, Fred.
Looks like you're healing pretty well.
All superficial, very nicely. Thank you.
And joining us from Sweden once again, we are happy to see the publisher of The Dispatcher, Michael Sena. Hi, Michael.
Hi, great to be here again. Hi, Alan. How, Fred?
Well, the December issue of The Dispatcher is out, and on top, the headline is The Shifting Driverless Car Landscape. Give us the broad overview, first of all, here.
Well, it was the announcement that Argo AI was being closed down by its principal owners, Volkswagen and Ford, and what impact is that going to have on the rest of the industry? Why did Ford and Volkswagen decide to do it? And I've tried to cover those issues in the Dispatcher. So I encourage everybody to get into the depth of that article. But what impact is it having? The fact is that there really are two groups that are working on the driverless issue. There's the group that Argo AI was in a sense part of, Cruise and a few of the others who are not in the automotive industry. They've kind of built up through the approach of, we're going to make cars driverless, but we're not in the car business. And then there's the car industry, and Volkswagen and Ford tried to get them to do things that they wanted to have done as well in the car industry, and it just obviously didn't work out so well. But the other group, which is the automotive industry and all the car companies, including Volvo, which I give as an example, they're the group who are working on what I call the incremental driverless approach, which is eventually you build up the capability of being able to fly by jumping. And this is something that one of the fellows who was, I think the Cruise, one of the founders and people in Cruise, criticized this approach, saying it's like the car industry is trying to make the cars fly by getting them to jump higher. Well, I agree. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to make the cars safer and safer and safer by putting more functions in the car so that eventually the cars can be driven driverlessly, as opposed to what I call, and this is the Tesla approach, beta testing to death. So on the one hand, we have a guy who's telling people, use your cars, we have full self-driving, knock yourself out, and they do. And on the other side, we have people who are trying to build up the functionality through safety features, which will eventually lead us to capabilities that are closer and closer to driverless. And that's basically what the article is about. It's saying Ford and Volkswagen and the other industry players, including Volvo, are going and continuing to go in this line, while companies like Argo AI, and I'm going to say that these other companies like Cruise, which is part of GM, are eventually either going to be consumed by their owners, or they're just going to fold because there's no business case. And the amount of money that's been invested in these companies, continuing to be invested in these companies, is too great to hold the weight. So that's what the article is about, and I hope people will read it.
Yeah, of course, I think it's a fantastic article, and you've done a fantastic job in bringing that out. I don't completely agree, of course. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have a conversation here. So otherwise, I mean, just for the sake of it, for the debate's sake. the question is, what's the objective function? What are we trying to do? I mean, we're doing this apparently because we're trying to do something. And if it is safety, it's one thing. Okay. And you are absolutely right with respect to the safety piece, because as we've argued, I think you sort of agree with me anyway, that most of the safety issue, 90% of it, whatever, a large part of it is due to misbehavior, failings of the person, the driver, that should have done better. And in fact, the beauty of what's been developed and what is appearing in the marketplace and what is being purchased by people, and for the most part is being used appropriately and not with more mishandling, are things that really kind of, when we become human, bail us out, help us, keep us from crashing. And those are the wonderful things that are appearing in the marketplace. I mean, more than 50% of the cars available in dealerships now or something like that have automated emergency braking systems at work, and IIHS is finding that in fact the rear end collision systems and so on, that the backup systems that exist are working really well, and data is being accumulated to show that in fact these things are bailing ourselves out. And beautiful. I mean, this is almost safety that is selling. Okay, whereas seatbelts, safety really didn't. I mean, maybe airbags sold, but safety's had a troubling point. And absolutely, with respect to the safety piece, you're absolutely right. But there could be another objective with all this technology, which is mobility, which is trying to provide to those who for whatever reason can't drive, go out there. The sun is moving on me. Sorry, I keep moving my camera. And this is going to drive for them, as opposed to having a person drive for them. Because the mobility offered by the car, I mean, why is it that, over 90% of the trips are taken by car? I mean, other than walking, okay? The two big mobility things are walking and taking a car. And the reason is because of its flexibility, its level of service, its cost. I mean, it's really fantastic. As long as you can have a driver in there, it doesn't cost you anything. So for me, it doesn't cost me anything. So it becomes affordable, unless we're rich people. And so in that one, which we've always argued is a completely different business in a sense than the safety one. And it's not that we're going to go do this and be unsafe and be crazy. But the kinds of things that Argo was trying to do, are the kinds of things you end up having to do. My contention is where they went wrong is and where they're going wrong and continue to go wrong is they're trying to take this thing that is trying to provide mobility that's comparable to what a driver can deliver to people that already drive.
Yeah, but Alan, I totally agree with you.
I think you do. Yes, yeah. And we shouldn't mix them. Go ahead. Go.
We shouldn't mix them. I mean, what I've said here is that what these companies are doing is not developing cars that are safer. That's what the car companies are doing. The car companies are gradually adding the features that will provide for safe driving.
Yes,
they're not in the business of providing cars at this point, and their business model isn't providing cars that are driverless. These other companies, and this is where I totally agree with you. These other companies are trying to develop driverless cars in order to substitute a chauffeur for the same people who already are driving their cars. And they're missing exactly the point that you've identified. They're missing the point that if you're going to do this, you're going to have to do it for those people who can't drive, who aren't able to drive, and you have a completely different approach. But unfortunately, the people who are providing the money to these folks aren't interested in having old people and infirm people. That's not their business case. Their business case is having poor people. Exactly.
Let's call it, you know, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. So I mean, the folks that are working, the Auroras, the Cruises, the Waymos who are working on this, they're attempting to develop cars that drive themselves without really having any business case whatsoever, except that they're going to provide a chauffeured car without a chauffeur. Now, who's going to make the money? Who's going to generate? Who's going to be pulling in the income for those cars? You think they're going to charge less money to the person who's using this service? It's a substitute for Uber. It's a substitute for a taxi. It's a substitute for, you know, somebody driving themselves. And that's why I think, now, look, I admit, full disclosure here, I have worked for a car company, actually a car, a truck and bus company, and a construction equipment company called Volvo. I was an employee there. And for the last 25 years, I've been working as a consultant to companies like those companies and their tier one suppliers and the people who make the maps that are generated. So yes, I am biased, but at some point in time, you've got to use that bias for saying things that you think are either correct or at least believable. And this is why I'm writing the Dispatcher. This is why I put those things in the Dispatcher, so those arguments are getting in front of people and say, oh, maybe I didn't think of that. Maybe I should consider this as well. And maybe, you know, in some dream, somebody who actually is investing all of this billions of dollars will read it and say, gee, maybe we should be doing something different. Maybe we should be talking to Alan Kornhauser about what they're doing at Trenton Moves. Maybe we should, you know, get our act going into a different direction. Maybe.
As full disclosure, I must admit, I've never worked for a car company. I've never worked. I mean, you know, I've been in academia all my life in this Princeton bubble. What the hell can I say? So therefore, you know, but
you're selling your stuff short. We know about ALK.
Yeah, but I think this is really important, a discussion we have here, because the technology is somehow close and addresses both this problem in this direction and this problem in this direction, that the two have been conflated.
Yeah.
And the conflation has to stop. Okay, maybe in the development of the technology, one can help the other. Absolutely. But really, one has to decide, are you in it for improving the safety of the people that go out and buy a car in either on the web or at a dealership? You know, we can argue as to what the right way for me to purchase a car. It's going to be mine, for which I sit over and I monitor it. And it keeps me in the loop, and providing this and me in the loop together really has the opportunity to deliver value to me. Okay.
Yes.
As opposed to somebody who, oh my goodness, I can walk, or I can take a bus, or I can go to you or Fred and say, hey, could you guys take me, please? Okay. Be my chauffeur. You know, for those, and say, oh my goodness, this stuff might work, and we can throw it out there. And in fact, if you look at it, it is really inexpensive. And therefore, yes, absolutely, charge less than Uber and Lyft and a taxi and so on. For the market, mobility is a huge market. Okay, it is a huge market. And there are facets of it. Some of it is associated with the stuff that we buy to move ourselves. Some of it is to move people. Some of it is to move people that live densely in Manhattans. Oh, give them a subway. Some of them who live, you know, sort of sparsely in places like Princeton or Trenton or whatever. It's a different problem. It's a different challenge. People have been trying to provide mobility for them with the tools that they had, the things that they had. They haven't been able to in the last 70 years or 100 or billions of years. But finally, there may be this thing out there that, in fact, oh my goodness, it changes their lives. Giving this to somebody who already has a car and so on and whatever, you're not going to be as good.
No.
Okay. You might improve safety a little bit, but the way you really improve safety is make the stuff that they drive, do what they're finally realizing. So it's the deployment piece that's wrong. Some of them decide we're going to deploy in showrooms and cars that we buy. But if you're really trying to provide the mobility piece, you got to go out there and provide it to the folks who will say, oh my goodness, this is great. I want to buy that. Ooh, boy, do I love this coffee. I'm going to go into Starbucks and buy it. Okay. But to do it where they're doing it, it's a deployment nightmare. Why are you doing it there? You're doing it there for no, those folks, they have so many options. You have no chance. They get to pick one, whatever they think is the best. Your chance of being better than all the other choices they have, that lemonade is not going to sell at that lemonade stand. But there are other lemonade stands where it could sell. Look at them. I mean, they've completely screwed up the deployment. They might have done great in testing and algorithm development and who knows what and they screwed up in the marketplace. So no wonder Adam Jonas says, hey, GM Cruise is basically on the balance sheet for GM for the next 2 years worth. And then there are people who have invested in Waymo knocking on the door to Alphabet saying, hey, yo, you're putting a lot of money in there. Yeah. Where's the revenue? Where's the advertising? Yeah. Where's the cash? They deserve it. Well, they've completely screwed up in the deployment, in the marketplace. And it's a shame because I think the cruise technology is good. I think the Waymo technology was good. Probably the Argo technology was good. But they didn't call me. What can I say? I don't know. I'm just, hey, maybe that's not the right one. Maybe there's a better one than Trenton. But my goodness, they're reasonable ones. Not in Phoenix where everybody. You think you're going to be better than some person living in Phoenix that has who knows how many cars sitting right outside their kitchen door? Get out of here.
Alan, you've been talking about this for so long, but
it drives me nuts.
Yeah. But I think you've just explained things much more concisely and focused than you have before.
Well, I think it's Michael.
Yeah, I helped to focus the mind.
No. I think our discussions here have been critical because this is really, as we've always said, the chrome and fins of this. In the safety aspect, in improving the car that I buy in the showroom and allowing me to have a more comfortable and a better ride and not go boom, that's fantastic. And of course, make sure you do that. Don't make it so that I can accelerate and go 0 to 60 in minus 0.2 seconds and drive at 107 miles an hour down Cleveland Lane. I mean, no. To make sure that I don't back up over a kid as I'm backing up over, out of my driveway. Absolutely. Help me. I turn my head. I look all over. I didn't see it. Help me if you see it. And this is where they're going. And this is beautiful.
Interesting. Right. Some of the Madison Avenue message, we'll move on in a second, but some of the Madison Avenue message has been focused more on the magic, like daddy takes his hands off the wheel while the child is in the back seat and gasps. It's not so much they're not talking about the safety as more about the magic with some of this anyway.
They're trying to sell glitz, and it's a shame because fundamentally this is really good. And it's not that I can take my hands off the wheel, please. to me, and maybe I'm just a weirdo. It's that I can take my feet off the pedals. Because otherwise I'm there pushing this, pushing that, trying to make sure I don't go through so that comes behind me and And what is shocking is that the whole transportation industry, the departments of transportation, I have yet to see a sign along any roadway that says, hey, use your cruise control if you have it. And if you have intelligent cruise control, use it. Oh my goodness, you're gonna, if I go at constant speed, guess what? The drag, which goes as V cubed, whatever, it's the high part of when I go fast that I cause a lot of the environmental problems. But if I can just go constant instead of fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, environmentally, I'm good. And I smooth out traffic flow and all that. No, but how many cars have cruise control now and intelligent cruise control? Pretty soon it will be more than 50% of them.
Well, there are some enlightened areas of the world where intelligent cruise control is actually part of the future of all cars within the EU. I mean, gradually within the EU with type approval, these types of things are getting put into all of the cars.
I think it's fantastic, but so far, I don't know, maybe I just stay in the Princeton bubble and I don't see what's going on around here. It completely shocks me. This is stuff that's out there. You don't even have to do that. You could implement. And what's it going to save in fuel economy, whether it's electricity or whatever, small amount, but over such a big number it's a big thing.
Yeah,
and it's free. But anyway, we digress. Let's get back to more of the dispatcher, because there's more in there.
There is. Michael, you're right about the move by GM, Stellantis, and VW Group to pause paid advertising on Twitter. And they certainly aren't alone since Elon Musk's takeover at the end of October.
Yeah. Well, you read it, so you know that what I've tried to do in the article was to kind of, what is it? How did Tesla get to where it is, and what are we looking at in terms of a company moving forward? And I use the metaphor of Elon Musk as a pizza parlor owner who moves into a town where he doesn't really know how to make pizzas, but there's one good pizza parlor. It's been there for many years, and Elon Musk moves in with a recipe that he won in a card game, and he begins to tell people that you have to eat my pizzas because my pizzas are made with things that don't harm the environment. And he gets subsidies from the schools, and they start to distribute pizza hats, and eventually he makes so much money with all of the subsidies that he's now buying up the entire town, and he becomes the richest guy in the city. And the other business people are going to have to decide, and then he buys the newspaper in the town. So he buys the one newspaper in the city, and all the people in town who are business owners have to either decide whether they're going to advertise. The pizza owners are going to have to advertise their pizza parlor and in his newspaper, giving him more money, or whether they're going to pull their ads. And this is the situation that you have with the car companies. The car companies are in the business of selling cars, and he's in the business of selling cars. But now they have to decide whether they're going to put advertisements in his newspaper called Twitter, or they're going to pull those ads, because every penny they put, or every dollar they put into the advertising in his newspaper is going into his pocket so that he can compete them out of business. That's the situation that we have. Now, how Elon Musk was able, I know there are laws in the United States that prevent this kind of thing from happening, but how he was able to even get in the position of buying Twitter, which is a place where all of these companies have an enormous amount of money, probably more going into Google and Facebook. But what's to prevent him now from buying Facebook? Or, what's the situation that when Amazon, not Amazon, but if Google decided it was going to start selling cars, are they competing with the people who are putting the money into? I mean, these are the kinds of things that have to be considered. But somehow he's managed to get through all of this, and at the same time, all of the people who thought they were part of his magic kingdom have found that 50% of the value in his stock has just disappeared ever since he put a bid in for Twitter, because he's farting around with Twitter, and he's not doing the business he should be doing. He's destroying one company, but at the same time, he's lost half the value in the company that's paying all the bills. Now, I would never buy stock, and I would never buy a Tesla. I've said this many times. I'd never buy a Tesla. I'd never buy stock in Tesla. I wouldn't have anything to do with that guy or anything that he had something to do with. But those people who have just lost 50% of whatever they put into it. Of course, it depends, but the stock price is where it was 2 years, 2020. In the beginning of 2020, it's back down there. It's lost 50% of its value. That's why I wrote the article, not because I don't care what he does with Twitter, but it's affecting the people who are in this industry, and it's affecting the car industry. So, what would you do? Would you keep putting your ads in Twitter?
But Michael, that's his brilliance. Okay.
I don't put those words together. Elon Musk and brilliance. Somebody sent me something. Our good friend Ken Powell sent me something. He's the next Edison. I don't care. Edison. I don't know. I didn't know Edison. I don't.
Well, you have some issues with Edison and Westinghouse and a whole bunch of other things that in the end don't look pretty. And and if one looks at Henry Ford and basically how he built the Ford Motor Company, and basically doing vertical integration of all the pieces and controlling and so on and so forth. These are normal processes. Not normal. Others have done it. There are laws against this in the U.S. now. Of course, not a lawyer and whatever and so on, but you make a very good point, and I think your little town analogy. I think you were thinking of Scranton again, except you.
Old Forge.
You failed to mention that some people from Scranton end up in the White House, but whatever, and so can do stuff about it, and even this morning, Gingrich or something like that said good things about Biden. I mean, that's why I'm in such a good mood. I mean, my goodness.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, finally. And Mike, so things are turning. Yes, absolutely. And to me, the other love in my life, I have other loves in my life, as you must well know, is of course SpaceX and what they're doing. And yes, I still want to go to Mars and all that stuff. Wanted to go to Mars for 60 years, but whatever. Hopefully it doesn't affect them, but it may. And some people say, "Oh my goodness, what are you doing there?" And you're running roughshod over, South Texas and so on and so forth. But in the end, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you make a very good point. What, for good or for bad, what Elon, I think, has done is certainly, I would say without Elon, we wouldn't be where we are in electric vehicles. Maybe we shouldn't be where we are in electric.
Well, you know how I feel about that.
Yeah. No, I know, and so I say, that's another one, and I agree with you. It's the again, a few days ago, we were playing around with the energy flow charts of Lawrence Livermore, and I encourage all of our audience to take a look at those things, because they tell you so much about the economy of the entity for which those energy flow charts generate get their data or represent. I mean, it just tells you one, how people live, how people, their opportunities, and what their options might be going in the future. I mean, fundamentally, on a absolute fundamental basis. And they all look different. We are we really going to put together a little game here? Here's a chart. Who is
Yeah.
it?
Who is it? Yeah.
Yeah, because they're so different. There's instead of face recognition, we should do
Yeah.
energy flow
Country,
chart, right? Energy
country or
flow, right?
state. Yeah.
Or state or whatever,
Yeah.
because and these are really substantive constraints on what opportunities are available to you, because energy is fundamental to quality of life.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's food, attraction, whatever, that all and you look at, I don't know, the whole advancement of advancement as it has been in human life has been, getting energy and making it appropriate. Why do we have, cities located near waterfalls? Energy. I mean, that's the reason. Why did you domesticate animals? Well, in part to eat them, but energy. I mean, kidding me?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think that issue sometimes eludes people, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's the most important one.
Well, related to this, Michael,
Yeah.
in the dispatcher, you have an update for us on China with the headline "China Inc. Global Automobile Monopoly," and we aren't just talking about battery electric vehicle.
Yeah. Up until this issue, I focused on what China has been doing, or why China is now the leading producer. China Inc., meaning all of the companies in China which are organized and run by the Chinese Communist Party. They were able, or let's say they were forced to hop over the entire ICE, internal combustion engine technology, because they could never master it. But what they did do, and the facts that I've been able to assemble are in this article. So again, I go to that article to get the facts. But what they were able to do is to assemble all of the components for batteries. They were able to develop, along with the help of the other people, including Tesla, to be able to develop the concept of the electric platform. And then based on that, with the monopoly that they had created in the battery creation, both all the way from the raw materials to the processing of those raw materials, they own it. In the same way that same thing they've done with aluminum and with steel and with baseball caps, baseball hats. They've done this with the electric car business. So now they've got the electric car business essentially, and they're beginning to move their electric cars into Europe, and then eventually within a few years into the United States markets. They're coming in at a price point which nobody can compete with, and they're coming in with cars which they claim, I would say they're totally overrated, but they're claiming that these cars are equal to the American and U.S. and European cars. They're not, but they're claiming, and they're getting a lot of free press from the motor industry, motor journalism industry. For some reason, I don't know why. They are here in Europe, particularly in Sweden, because really the governments are trying to push electric cars. So they're coming in with electric cars. Now, there's no chance of all cars being electric. We know that. It's going to take another 30 years before we have even close to 50% of the cars in the world. Now we're talking about a billion cars that are there now, 100 million cars approximately being sold per year. Half of the cars, in the best case or worst case, however you want to put it, are going to continue to be ICE vehicles in places like, all of Africa, most of India, most of China, and large parts of other areas will continue to be ICE vehicles because the infrastructure won't be there. They can't afford what's going to cost to charge it. All of these
They won't
reasons.
have the electricity,
and they won't have the electric. Well, I've already gone through this issue. So they won't have they won't have the electricity to be able to manage these cars.
Look at the energy flow chart for China,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
look at where it gets its electricity.
Yeah.
Coal.
Yeah.
Go.
All the electricity is that's the issue.
Yeah.
But so now you've got half of the cars are going to continue to be ICE vehicles. But what are the car companies doing? They're falling all over themselves. And Volvo is a very good example of this, saying by 2030, we are not going to make any more ICE vehicles. Now, who owns Volvo? You could say, well, it's a public company. It just didn't it do an IPO? Yeah. 18% of it is owned by the public. The rest of it is owned by Geely. Now, Geely, and please do this. If you're interested in this, go to the article. Geely, which owns Volvo, managed to get Volvo to turn over to Geely 60% in a joint venture, all of its ICE technology. They created a JV, and that was going to be in Sweden. They created this JV, and the internal combustion engines were now going to be built by this joint venture, and those would go into cars, Geely cars, and they would go into whatever Volvo cars might possibly use this somewhere in the world in the future. They wouldn't be Volvo cars because Volvo said we're not going to have any ICE vehicles. Within less than a year, Geely managed to get Volvo to sell, however that transaction occurred, we don't really know, to Geely now all of the technology. So Volvo, having spent 100 years approximately developing some of the best ICE technology, now owns none of it. It is all in Geely's hands. What did Geely do? It turned around and made two approaches, one to Stellantis, the other one to Renault, to create joint ventures where they would share the ICE technology. Geely had no ICE technology, and whatever ICE technology they had developed in China, it was crap. They know that. That's why they bought Volvo in the first place. So Geely is now Geely, and then Geely's not alone in this. This is another part of the strategy.
Geely's not Swedish? I thought Geely was Swedish.
Oh, because Li Shufu, who call me Eric, Li Shufu, who's now Eric Shufu, or whatever. Eric Lee was Li Shufu. Yeah.
I wanted you to repeat that because I'm not sure the audience heard that. Go ahead.
Geely is a very Chinese company.
Yes.
And Geely has done Li Shufu has done a marvelous job of managing everything related to Volvo and getting as much out of Volvo as he possibly could have gotten, including now putting in this nice fellow, Mr. Rowan from Scotland, who is there. He has no experience in the car industry, but I'm sure he's going to do a great job for Geely and Li Shufu as he continues to move further into this business. But this is not a one-off. This and Geely's did a terrific job as a point company to begin to buy and control Western technology. They haven't really done a very good job of getting the US companies, but now with Stellantis, which of course owns Chrysler, they're pulling Chrysler into this along with Fiat and Opel and all the other, Peugeot and the other companies, Citroën. They're creating this new group which will control the other half. So now you've got China controlling the 50% of which all the cars that are going to be Then you say, well, isn't General Motors making electric cars? Yeah, they are now. But what happens when everybody is buying Chinese cars because they can, they get along just about as well as the other cars, and they're half the cost or a quarter of the cost. And then once you've competed all these other companies out of the business, then you can do whatever you want with them, which is what China has done in other industries. Gradually the prices start to go up. I don't think you pay the same for your make America great again hats that are bought in China today as they were 4 or 6 years ago. Prices go up. That's what this article is about, and I'm going to continue to put this information there, and people can do whatever it is they want to do with it. But
Michael, you're biased.
What am I biased against?
Not against. I mean, look, if you were Chinese, what would you do?
I ain't Chinese.
I know, but I'm saying if you were Chinese and you had 1.4 billion people and you were trying to do an economy and you were looking at what consumer product should I try to be a major part of? Whoa, what's at the top of the list?
Terrific.
Probably.
And all I'm saying, I'm saying I'm not Chinese. Okay.
Yeah, no, I know.
I'm an Italian American Swede, and I'm looking out for my guys.
I'm a Ukrainian, French American, or I don't know.
I'm looking out for my guys. I don't want the car industries in Sweden, in Europe, and North America to be run by Chinese companies. I just don't want that. Yeah. And I think all the things that the United States and President Biden has been doing basically agrees with that, because that's not in their interest. That's not in America's interest.
That's not in our interest. No. Let me ask another question on this line. To what extent does this looks like deja vu all over again with respect to the Japanese entering the auto manufacturing business, and now it's 40 years ago or 50 years ago and so on. In some sense the same thing, coming out of World War II, wanting to improve their economy, seeing hey, what should I go after, doing a bunch of things, coming in here. I mean, my first set of in-laws worked at the General Motors plant in Trenton. And my goodness, if you drove up and if you went and parked your car at the General Motors plant with a Japanese car, you came out of your shift work and the car wasn't. I mean, it was sitting there on cinder blocks. Yeah. Okay, so talk to me here. Anything that we can take from that experience to help us here?
Yeah. Name one Western car company that was bought by a Japanese car company.
Well, I mean, you didn't have to be that easy on me to give me a good answer. Hey, you get A+. Way to go. I mean, yeah, I don't make very hard exams, do I? Yes, go. Yeah.
Right. There was the reason that the Japanese car companies have succeeded, and also the reason that the South Korean car companies are succeeding, is because they make really good cars, and they went through the process of producing the cars, not Toyota didn't have any joint. Yeah, they had some help along the way in the early days with Ford.
Honda was really early in the process too.
Yeah, they developed the technology. They put cars in the market. They listened to the people who were buying them. They improved the cars, and over the years they've built up their companies by building better and better cars. They haven't built up their companies in the way the Chinese have done, by forcing them to hand over the intellectual property, by creating situations where you can't compete with them. You have to work with them, and then eventually taking that technology. And they've done it with everything. They've done it with airplanes, with with high-speed trains, you name it, with steel, with nuclear power plants from France. That's it. And the whole idea is that once you've built all of this, you own it. You have the entire market to yourself, and all of the what's been sucked out has been sucked into China. And I don't believe that's the way the world should work. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And the thing that I see that this occurred in all of these industries while the government, the senators and the House of Representatives and the presidents were saying, yeah, great, this is terrific. And they were listening to the consultants and the economists saying, the globalization is going to be really good because we're all going to be better off. The prices will be lower and we'll all do what we do best. Well, gosh, it didn't turn out that way. It's turned out in a very different way. And that's why the former guy got elected in the first place and could very well come back to do it again, because there are a lot of people out there who lost their jobs for reasons that they never should have lost their jobs. They didn't benefit from that. The people who benefited from it are the ones who've, created more globalizations, and they're people who we know. A lot of them went to Princeton, and it's not helping societies. It's not helping societies. That's all. And
yeah,
that's what I write about.
I know, which is great, which is why we love reading you and having you on here and talking. I mean, it is one of the unfortunate parts of capitalism. The unfortunate part of capitalism is what you want to do is to create a monopoly because then you can really capitalize. And so not having all this nice competition is kind of nice. But once you get an opportunity to grab it all, see, oh man, everybody gets greedy. Come on, you don't have to think about that one. That's true. But whatever, maybe not. I mean, you look at, yeah, I mean, you look at any, Google wants to be, Amazon wants to be, Facebook wants to be, Ford Motor Company, Henry wanted to be, Edison wanted to be, be the big, and so on. And, now we have Elon wants to be,
One other story from the dispatcher to touch on, we'll just do it quick, is in the musing section, you write about city obstacle courses. Cities have forgotten what sidewalks are for.
Yeah, what do you think? I mean, what do you think? Did I get my point across?
Oh, did you get your point across? And it is so true. And it is really, sidewalks are really important for people to walk. Okay, because in the end, you can't really get to every place you need to get to and so on. You need to somehow aggregate yourself to a point, and that's what sidewalks do. And you can't, or did. And again, not to go back to what I pitch, but the whole move style thing of trying to provide mobility is to improve also the accessibility network, which is sidewalks, that will allow you to get to a kiosk where now, hey, you just can't walk that far. You hop on something that bridges you over, for which it then takes you someplace that you walk to. And again, the elevator analogy to me is the exact same way. You have a nice entrance from the doors through the whatever and so on and so forth to the elevator bank. And it then takes you up, and then you have a nice sort of, walks to your room or to your apartment or to your flat.
So I'll continue your analogy. If what I've said about the sidewalks, we haven't had sidewalks forever. We had the Romans built sidewalks. They were nice sidewalks. They were next to the roads and people walked on them. And the main, what I've said is there are two reasons for having sidewalks. One was to make sure that there was a place where people could walk without being run over by the vehicles, whatever those vehicles were, whether they were being pulled by horses, or whether being automobiles. That was purpose one. And we began to get sidewalks when people were starting to be able to walk. And it's not that long ago. It's 100, 150 years ago that we began to separate it. The other reason for sidewalks was, as I said, to keep the shit off the shinola. Now, anybody who's our age knows that shinola was a shoe polish. And the reason that we have curbs was to keep all of the effluent that was on those streets from whatever it was, mostly horses, from coming into the place where people were walking with their shoes. The ladies' dresses that were going down. So those are the two purposes, the main purposes of a sidewalk. Otherwise, you just had a building and you had a road and you didn't need anything. But if you had a building in the road, you had shit on the road from the horses, and then it rained, and then it came into your house. Well, that's not a good idea. So even in the minimum was to have something that separated that road where all the shit was from your house, which is where you didn't want it to be. And then I move into the fight between the power struggle. And that power struggle was between two forces. The force that built those sidewalks in the beginning, Haussmann, and then Robert Moses in New York City and other places, where they began to build cities that had streets and they had sidewalks. That's how, that's what began to happen. And then you had sidewalks that were made for walking, and they were people had laws. They made laws for these sidewalks. They were made for walking. They weren't made for all of the things that began to happen. And when did those things begin to happen? When the forces of we are the people, we are able to control everything around us. And who, somebody pops up again from Scranton, Jane Jacobs. I don't know. Scranton is not the center of the world, but somehow it is. It's all kinds of things happen in Scranton and related to Scranton. Well, Jane Jacobs, who was born in Scranton and left Scranton in 1930, in the mid 1930s with her sister, went to live in New York City and became the grand madam of urban planning. She had no training. She didn't go to college. She had no training in urban planning, but she wrote a great book. And again, that story is important. And why did she write it? And how did she write it? And what she wrote about? And she got into one of these kinds of fights with the biggest and most important and most influential and most powerful person in New York City, Robert Moses. And they both lost. And the result of both of them losing was that the street became more and more controlled by the people and less controlled by the governments who not own them, but control them. They gave them over, they gave them up. They said, you want it, you have the power, you take care of it, you do whatever you want with them. And what I show in the article and the photos that I show in the article are the result of that, of people taking over the sidewalks to do whatever it is that they want to do. They're moving out their restaurants. They're putting up their own signs. They're controlling everything that's in that sidewalk and negating the fact that sidewalk really is there for people to be able to move. The construction sites move into the sidewalks. They start storing things in the sidewalks, and suddenly you're not able to if you're in a wheelchair, if you're feeble, and you're on crutches, whatever. I've had my knee replaced a year ago. I know what it's like to try to move around places where you can't move around very easily. And the cities somehow said, it's not up to us anymore. It's not our business. You do whatever you want. And then they started to allow people to do things in those sidewalks, which they weren't allowed to be able to do before. And in the end of the article, I said, well, maybe in the future, sidewalks will be an attraction. They'll be like the elevated sidewalk in New York City, where you've got an association that takes takes care of it, and you go up there and you walk, and no bicycles, no scooters allowed. And what do? You walk. Oh, wow. So it becomes something, but it's not what sidewalks were meant to be.
The
The
high
problem
line.
now, the problem I have right now, the High Line. I guess it's nice.
It is very nice. It is
Yeah.
very nice, but
But what is it?
It's an amusement park.
It's an amusement park.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So we
yeah.
have our sidewalks have become amusement parks. Unfortunately, the more that I've gotten into this, the worse I am. I mean, I walk around in a city right now, and I'm just spending all of my time picking up scooters and moving bicycles, and and being angry and talking to people and saying, how do you allow this to happen?
Yeah.
Why are you putting up with this stuff? The thing that in Portland, the city giving up the entire area, saw all the sidewalks to homeless people. That was another example that I've used in there. Yes, homeless people they need help, but they don't need help by putting them in the sidewalks and putting up tents in the sidewalks, because what are the people who need those sidewalks, who really do need to walk on those sidewalks? What are they going to do? They're going to walk into in the street. It's terrific that we have bike lanes, but if you have bike lanes that are somehow encroaching into the area that were sidewalks, and now you've got sidewalks, instead of being this wide, they're this wide, and then you've got people in wheelchairs and people who are groups of people, and it's a mess. And it's the reason it's a mess is because we've given up the power to everyone who says, I want to do whatever I want to do, and you can't stop me, because it's my right. And I think we have to start thinking about what it is that the sidewalks are supposed to be doing, and how can we be sure that they're doing them correctly.
To me, sidewalks are sort of the fundamental fabric of a community that brings a community together and allows you efficient mobility within the small. And
Mhm.
it's really important for that community and to have some amount of cohesion and some amount of friendliness and interaction and so on. That's, at least for some, those many, and those that can't, also, with wheelchairs, to be able to get around and see their neighbors and be part of a community, a
Yep.
local community. It's not a New Jersey turnpike that you go through.
Yep.
It's to be able to provide you that togetherness, and again, not to, again, for the stuff that I pitch, but the whole trend and the move style is to say, hey, you don't just get picked up anywhere with these things and dropped off anywhere. You're picked up at points in which you can be well taken care of, and now we're going to provide the accessibility to all the other places through the sidewalk network. And the sidewalk network is really important. That's where the
Yes.
infrastructure. You look at any tall building, that, again, back to the elevator analogy, there's a very pleasant way to get to the elevator bank, and a very pleasant way to get to where you're actually going on the other end. Same thing on a network part. You need that, and that's, to me, I think that's the most efficient way a good way to do it. But my goodness, it's like hitting, you got to hit people over the head. And here, I mean, where have we gotten to here in Princeton? People don't even want sidewalk. Oh my goodness, it's going to bring drug dealers.
Yep.
What? Get out. I mean, to my neighbor. Well, yeah, maybe there should be drug dealers in your. I don't know, but I mean, my goodness. I mean, what the heck? You put a fence around yourself. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Great discussion. So let's move on to the latest smart driving cars
Yeah.
for a short time here,
Sure.
Alan. From Axios, you have a piece headlined, "The smartest AI is dumb without people." There's a line in here that reads, "For all the talk of computers replacing or even replicating human activity, the most powerful use of them may be to help humans do their jobs better." Did you write that?
Boy, I wish I did. I mean, that maybe Michael wrote it or something. I don't know. I mean, it's been crazy. It's been absolutely crazy for the last AI is going to do about machine learning and and big data, and you just throw the data in there and it's going to give you the answers. Are you kidding? Are you joking? And finally, some people they're finally starting to write about it and say, come on, these are tools to help. Okay, and getting back to our original topic, which is where the OEMs are coming, these are tools to help to improve safety. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, and I think even on the driverless world, okay, these are tools to help mobility. But that doesn't mean that you don't have an entity over top of it watching it, actually controlling it. And anybody that calls any of this stuff autonomous bull. These things aren't making the decisions as to really what to do. They're making mediocre, all the little pizza, how I should route from A to B. But they're not saying, hey, you will go to B from A. It's people that are doing that. We're the whole deployment of getting the vehicle. These things wouldn't be doing decisions. And the thought that anybody would have in any application is like goofy. And of course, I pitched my Laura's company, Stratify, in fintech. Oh my goodness, guess what? When you train these models on old data, all the old data is biased. It has all the redlining in it. It has all the ugliness. And guess what kind of answers it's going to give you? Same answers you put in the first place. So if you're really trying to be equitable, you better put somebody's brain into it. People have to be looking over this stuff. You have to have visibility into what's going on. Nobody's going to say, hey, yo, you guys go do it. Really? Nobody's that irresponsible. Michael?
No, yeah,
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, this is Sunday's supplement. Who knows what has gone out there that people have been repeating, oh, AI. There's no AI. We're nowhere near it. Whatever it does is like, the simplest little task.
And the AI, I can't tell you the number of press releases I get in every day almost talking about AI this and AI that and consumer products. So overused.
I just hope that finally some things, the Axios came out with this morning and so on, is going to go out there and say, bull, forget about it. This is worse than crypto. Crypto and this, same bag. I mean, get out of here. Hopefully both are crashing.
What I've seen as a difficulty with any discussions about artificial intelligence is that there's for some reason there's a resistance to either trying to get a better understanding of what artificial intelligence is, and that there are different levels of artificial intelligence. You can't just have a general term of artificial intelligence and make that apply to everything. Artificial general intelligence is artificial intelligence which is capable of performing as close to human tasks as possible. What we have today, and we don't have artificial general intelligence, and most people who are working with this say exactly that. We're not even close. But we do have very effective artificial intelligence that's used for performing single tasks, whether it's winning a chess game or Go, or coming up with a suggestion for the right insurance for you based on the input that you've got. It's doing one task, but it's not performing a task which requires all kinds of sensory input of driving a car.
Wait a minute. Do you have any idea how much easier chess is than figuring out what kind of insurance is good to me? Okay. Yeah. What kind of insurance is good to me involves all sorts of things about me and society and how I interact with it and all kinds of details.
Yeah, but it doesn't. But wait a minute.
Wait. Yeah. Let me finish. Yeah. Chess says, I take your king.
Yeah.
The objective is so damn easy.
Yeah, but on a
So
scale,
damn easy.
yeah,
You know what that is not, doesn't take intelligence to be able to grab your king.
yeah,
I have just a few options of things that I can do compared to what things that you can do to be able to. It's clear that I want to grab your king before you grab my king. Oh
yeah,
my goodness, trivial. That doesn't take intelligence. That's not what we do as humans. We
well,
take very complex things that involve all sorts of who knows what, da dee da do da da, that we don't even know. It's even
Alan, you've
undefined and
just, yeah,
changed.
you've proven my point. This
Yeah,
is
I
my
know.
point. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I tried to
Here,
do.
playing chess is, it's down here. Deciding on an insurance policy with all of the input. You need to put an awful lot of input into this decision, but you can apply different types of artificial intelligence because they're different, neural networks and all of these things. Driving a car is way up here
Yeah.
because it takes a human being making decisions on continuous basis to be able to drive a car. It's landing.
It's not only that, it has to respond to a bunch of a whole host of other folks making decisions as to what they're going to do that's going to happen. So the uncertainty that's associated, it's not Gaussian. It's maybe slightly Gaussian. You can't even assume it. You can't assume it to be Gaussian because it's the weird stuff that's going to nail you. Okay, it is enormous, and you don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
Okay,
but what I was saying, yeah. Alan, what I was saying was that most people who are talking about artificial intelligence aren't looking at the spectrum. They're saying artificial intelligence, well, that does everything. So if you're using artificial intelligence, it's going to drive a car, it's going to play chess, it's going to paint your cars in a factory, and all of these things are being applied because it's not because that they can't, that people don't have the range to understand this. It's just that if they were going to have to understand all of this, they'd have to be able to read enough books to be informed well enough to make those decisions, and they're not. It's a senator wants to make I know that the United Nations has, and the EU and different organizations in the United States, they have associations and they have committees, and they're called AI committees. They're not called let's play chess AI committees or let's drive a car committee. They're AI committees, and they're looking at this as just one big box with all of these things in there, and eventually AI is a human being pops out of the box. Well, we can do a lot with AI, artificial intelligence, at a very low level, and not playing chess, but making decisions where data has to be analyzed and processed, and you can use the technologies and techniques which AI comprises to be able to do these things without having to go full bore and having people driving cars. I mean, that's...
Yeah, but why? I mean, you can call these things any way you want, anything you want them. Calling them artificial intelligence to me is just wrong. The same reason, why I invented the word, smart driving car. It's just because there is no intelligence in it, artificial or otherwise. Okay. It doesn't exist. I mean, it's an algorithm that takes some data and makes some comparisons and ends up, deciding and doing simple comparisons in terms of what one is better than the other over a very limited set of options that doesn't include the tough ones. Okay, so it is not intelligence. It just isn't. It just well, I don't know. I don't know what one wants to call what we do up here. Okay. But it is nowhere. It's nowhere near what an ant does.
Yeah.
It's probably nowhere near what a single cell organism does. It's all crap. It's putting a name on it. We're going to call it artificial intelligence. We're going to call it machine learning. Machines don't learn. Cut it out. Sure, you can put a gizmo and a gizmo and a gizmo, and it forces the thing to go like this. Great. That's not learning.
So what you're saying is that there is no artificial intelligence because artificial intelligence has to be artificial general intelligence, which is human beings.
Well, I don't know what intelligence is, okay? Maybe we should start with the definition of the word intelligence. And do we have to put a word, something before it, like general, as opposed to stupid, as opposed to, I don't know, as opposed to crapola? I don't know. But this, I mean, the language is just, I'm going to take what I have and I'm going to elevate it in how people think about it by putting onto it intelligence. Is it an Ivy League intelligence? Or is it just a state school intelligence? I mean, this is crap. It's just crap. And you know, I mean, come on, cut it out. It's an insult to us.
During the next month, I'm trying to put this is the key. This is the only article that's going to be in the next issue of the Dispatcher.
Good. Okay,
the January issue. It's about automotive artificial intelligence.
Good. Well, do it in the automotive scope. I'd love to see you do it and focus on it, but come on. I mean, come on. You know, what's deep learning? Holy mackerel. I got 2 gazillion knobs and I have to figure out what value they're going to have. That's what it is.
I hope I hope all of the AI mavens are going to be watching this when we throw it out there.
Oh, I hope so.
You know, and they're going to all come back to you and say, "Come on,
come on,
you know,
come on."
We have a definition.
Come on,
we've had a definition of artificial intelligence since 1956. Well, get with the program.
Well, that'll bring you back to Princeton, of course.
No, it was Dartmouth. Okay.
Well, it's not. Well, no,
it was the green machine. Well, speaking of which,
yeah. Anyway, but you know, come on. I mean, it's. I don't know. That's just the way I stand on it.
In the newsletter, Alan, you mentioned the new update to FSD, and I don't know where that fits into the picture or what Michael's going to write about that next.
Well, you know, I'm glad they're calling it FSD and forgetting putting on there what the F and the S and the D stand for. I mean, I don't know what FS and D stand for. Call it FSD, but don't put in a bunch of names that is going to put in my mind when I think about it for it to be not what it is. Okay. I mean, you know, to actually put the name on it, the name is on there so that when a human hears it, they then all of a sudden take all of the information that's around that name and attach it to it. It's a way to grab all sorts of other concepts and bring them together. That's why you put names on things. Or I think that's why you put names on things. And that's why you go after names that all of a sudden are going to make you bigger than you are. And that's why you call something AI. Oh, it's intelligence. Hey, that's a good thing. Oh, Princeton degrees. Whoa. Tenure at Princeton. Whoa. Cut it out.
Alan, I thought of you last night too, when Elon Musk had an event in Nevada unveiling his semi, delivering the first trucks to Pepsi.
Yeah.
And what he talked about was how much better life will be for the drivers in these trucks, something that you talk about pretty frequently.
Well, yeah, and I know, but yes, absolutely. I've said it, and last night maybe the first time that he said it, although somebody can correct me and say, no, he said it before. But my goodness, he is entering the Class 8 market, which is heavy trucks, from nowhere. I mean, completely against, against all the big guys, the Daimlers and the Volvos and the Max and the whatever and that are out there. He's coming in with carrying his EV part of it. Why? Because there seems to be just, a black hole that wants EV. He's coming to the black hole, and he's bringing now a Class 8 vehicle. Okay. And apparently, I don't know, it's not like the way Nikola did it and trying to just get the thing to go downhill, and therefore you release the brakes and it doesn't have anything in it. Okay, or you push it. He apparently demonstrated, with this thing, the acceleration going up whatever grade, trying to go to things that look like the Eisenhower Tunnel on Interstate 70. Okay, and showing what people who do these trucks must say, oh my goodness, whoa, hey, this is pretty damn interesting. And then they go look at diesel fuel prices in the United States, and they look at electricity, and electricity is free, right, Michael? At least electricity, what goes in your brain? Oh, it's free. The sun's shining. Oh, I gotcha. Okay. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden now you're in this aura of now. And then he just takes FSD and puts it in there. Essentially zero marginal cost to him. And now all of a sudden he can make this thing so it provides much of the advanced driver assistance stuff to make it easy to drive, feed off, whatever, so on and so forth, even maybe safer. Oh, marginal cost zero. Whoa. And now he's going to enter this market that has looking for this, looking for it. He's going to kill it. I mean, I'm not kill. I mean, he's going to be. They must all be, oh my goodness, lining up. I guess I don't know.
Lining up for what?
Lining up to buy him.
I
think. I don't know. I mean, I think he's got. I don't know. He's got how many orders for his Cybertruck, which is the goofiest thing you ever saw. Probably. Well, that's how he got all those pre-orders. I don't know what he must have for pre-orders. I think one would have to go to Volvo Trucks and ask, hey, how many pre-orders do you have for your 2024 model?
I think they released a number for 2024, 50,000 is his target. He's going to make 50,000 of these.
Well, he may make 50,000. I don't know what he has for pre-orders. Well, what's the market for Class 8s per year? I don't know. We can look it up, 200,000 or something like that, or maybe in US or something. I'm not sure. I don't think it's much more than that per year. It might be 500,000, but it's not great. Yeah, I mean,
Isn't it odd that there's that companies that have made trucks and buses and cars have moved out of the making trucks and buses and cars and into the we make cars, we make trucks, maybe we make buses too. Like Scania makes trucks and buses, and Volvo makes trucks and buses. Volvo used to be one company where Volvo Cars was together with Volvo Trucks and Buses. Again, I think there's a reason why they're two very, very different markets. They're two very different types of, actually three. The bus market and the truck market are extremely different.
Extremely
how you sell them, how you maintain them.
Extremely different.
Yeah. So I'm not saying anything on this because I don't believe that a company like Tesla can move into a market. And I said the same thing about Nikola. They can move into a market of heavy vehicles simply by saying we make, we have a platform, we put a cab on it. That's the end of the story. I just don't think it's going to work that way. But look, people have underestimated the Musketeer before, and we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And we look at the other ones that are out there, they're, pretty much Nikola. I mean, what an embarrassment. And who knows what, what the others that maybe had, good ideas there, and the ones that have been trying to do hydrogen or versions of hydrogen, who knows where they are. I don't know. I'm just looking at this and seeing, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. This is maybe, the same place when Elon first came out with his Roadster, and who would have thought the Roadster was going to lead to the S, was going to lead to the 3, was going to lead to the Y, was going to lead to the Cybertruck, was going to lead to this Class 8 truck. I mean, I don't know. Just saying that if somebody's going to get into this market, and whoever's in there now, and whoever's thinking about putting in whatever sort of driver assistance and so on into their vehicles, and I know they're all Scania included. There's an article this week again. Scania wants to do it, to help the truck driver. Again, we've been talking about the same concept for how many times, Michael? Again, even for trucks, it's not to make them driverless. It's to help the poor, I'll call him the poor truck driver. My goodness, somebody's in there with hands on the wheel, feet on the pedals, 10 hours or plus a day to put food on the table, 6 days a week. Oh my goodness. Any help some of this stuff can help them. Okay, it should be helping them. And I think that the CEOs of the trucking companies, of the US Expresses, of the Schneiders, of the JB Hunts, and even the mom and pops, okay, can really justify helping these employees of the company improve their lives by just giving them some help. And what could it cost?
But
almost nothing.
The trucking companies have been doing this for the last 20 years. I mean, they've all got, if you look at it at a new truck, even 5 years old, these trucks have an enormous amount of advanced driver assistance systems that goes far beyond what's in the cars, because you've got professional drivers who are there, who are capable of appreciating them and using them. They're all there.
Yeah, and there's, to me, my view is there should be even more, and probably there shouldn't be, as we discussed with the personal car. This should be essentially in the trucking company, all focused on improving the life of the driver, and not focused on taking the driver out of there. Okay, I mean, they're two different businesses. They're two different businesses. They're two different businesses, and you can readily do and improve the one, and the other one, man, get out of here. The amount of stuff you have to do to that, come on.
There's one thing we didn't mention here, is that the Inflation Reduction Act, one of the provisions, offers purchasers of new, medium, and heavy electric trucks up to a $40,000 tax credit.
Yeah,
that could, I suppose, help to fuel sales tremendously.
There's another one with respect to electric. Instead of them being 80,000 pound limits, they're 82,000 pound limits.
Because of the batteries, right?
Well, I don't know, because of the battery, and
that's
maybe
what Musk
because
said.
Well, it's because of the battery. Maybe those damn things weigh so damn much more than diesel fuel, which they do, and you need that. But it's also to, make sure that there is not a penalty in what you can carry, although very few Class 8s max out weight-wise, I think. You look at the percentage of what a Class 8's moving on highways, miles, whatever, percent of those vehicle miles, weight maxing out versus volume maxing out. And then, hey, 40% of it is empty anyway.
I don't know the industry well enough,
No,
and I know you do, Alan, but he's talking about a fully loaded.
It's called full truckload, partial truckload. I mean, it's
right.
a lot of the like the Walmarts and of the world are moving goods that don't belong to them to keep fill the truck up after it's
Right.
delivered the loads that did belong to it. So
Well, it's not only that, it's the stuff that you put in it. Is it going to wait out? In other words, before it fills the volume, does the weight of the whole thing become greater than 80,000 pounds or not? Versus filling out,
And being
very
loaded,
few.
Alan, he's talking about a range of 500 miles. I don't know enough about the industry to say, is that good enough?
Oh no, it's fantastic. Hey, I used to play in that industry. Okay. If you look at the distribution of length of haul, 500 miles probably gets you 500 miles and less probably gets you, I don't know, way over 50% of the goods movement. And if it's really long, a substantial amount of it goes by choo-choo, by rail. Okay. And yes, there are trucks going back and forth, cross country, but I'm not current with what the current numbers are, but a lot of them go by rail. And in fact, the length of hauls are not all that long. Okay. And so you have manufacturing going to warehouse, going to warehouse, going to warehouse, going to warehouse, and so on. So again, the trip length distribution is very skewed towards low volumes. And then if you look at things moving up and down the Northeast corridor, 500 miles, beautiful. Sure, stuff goes from Long Beach to Manhattan. Very few. Because if something's coming from China going to Manhattan, it goes in Port Newark, Port Elizabeth. It doesn't go to Long Beach. Okay, so, a lot of this,
I think
500 miles is really good.
I mean, I think 300 miles, 500 miles, these are red herrings. It doesn't,
Yeah.
I mean, what you're trying to do is you're trying to compare it to having gas stations everywhere and having charging stations nowhere. But eventually you've got charging stations that are there. The problem is the charging stations don't work. 20% of the charging stations don't work when people get there. Or if you do get there, the charging stations are filled, so you need to put more of them in there, and then you don't have a business case because you get too many charging stations and not enough people using them, like the ones that are in front of our house that I've got pictures of in this issue of the Dispatcher. And we have a gas station that's been placed in front of our apartment building with four really big, it's not gas, it's chargers, but they're on the sidewalks. If Shell had said, we're going to put a gas station in front of every other apartment building in Stockholm, how far would they get? Well, now we've got the equivalent or even worse, and nobody's using them because, of course, they've got better places to charge their cars, not in front of our apartment building. That's really not. That's so unimportant. It's how is the business case for a truck company, and now Elon Musk is trying to put himself into business of being a truck company. How does that differ from being in the business of being a car company? And it's not just simply, oh, I've got this platform and it's got a big thing on it, and this is another platform and that's got a smaller thing on it. This one carries kids to school and this one carries televisions to or screens to Walmart. But they're two very, very different businesses. I don't know anything about his business of how he's going to run the business of being in the truck business, who's going to buy them, and how they're going to be serviced, how they're going to continue to work. I don't know anything about that, and right now, I don't have the bandwidth to even care about that business. What I care about right now are the things that I've been writing about. Maybe I'll get to him and his trucks later, maybe.
Well,
Well,
in my view of him, again, from a distance, he must have employed some very good people who have looked at this market. And from what I see of the way he's approaching it, my goodness, it looks like it's being approached intelligently. Focusing on one entity to sell it to Pepsi is good, because what they have concentrated places in which they produce this stuff, and they send it to distribution centers and stage it at various places. And so he can handle that, and you can do those places selling, they will put the charging stuff, because they're not just going to go anywhere to anywhere. Okay, they're going to be constrained within a corporate entity, and just like he did with respect to the S and the cars, he started in California. He started where rich people live, and he knew that they were going to buy them. He knew where they were going to use them as toys, and he put the charging network where they were going to use them as toys. He's going to probably do, and has the same people out there doing it for him, because he's not doing all this stuff. It requires people to do this. It requires a whole organization of entities. They see it also. They're starting with a constrained customer set that they can serve, and they'll serve that. And then at some point they'll find another big customer, which again, I always say these things because what I'm trying to do in the move style, hey, do the same thing with respect to the driverless. Let's start in places where it's going to be appreciated.
Yeah.
And he's probably looked at, and he's worked with Pepsi, and he's realized, and they know all their trip length distributions for how much they have to move from where to where to where, and how bespoke it is, and what they can do with it, and what the backhaul opportunities are, and all that. That's all. Anybody intelligent working with him is going to do all that stuff. And I think they've done their homework there. And they're sitting there with some assets that they can really disrupt this damn market. Now, whether or not they will, and they'll trip, and because they don't know, some aspects of the business and so on and so forth that others who have been in it forever know, I don't know. But yeah, it hasn't been Nikola trying to just push something downhill.
Not to mention, he's got a new connection to a major chip supplier, because Pepsi owns Frito-Lay, and
No, that was.
I was hoping we'd get a little lighter here. When you mentioned Pepsi, I thought of the old Saturday Night Live with John Belushi when he was
Coke,
no Pepsi, making his hamburgers.
Pepsi, no Coke, whichever it was.
Whichever, I can never remember which one it was.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for another terrific edition of the Dispatcher. Great reading.
Pleasure.
And we encourage everyone to take a look at Michael L. Sena, Sena.com. Thank you to CARTS, the Corporation for Automated Road Transportation Safety, for helping to make this podcast possible. CARTS is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to safe and high-quality mobility for all. You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, wherever you turn to for podcasts, Anchor FM, Amazon, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google. You can ask your smart speaker to play us too. You can find my tech reports at textination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with Alan Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody. And Fred, make sure you put in the chapters of this, because we went on for a very long time, and we really don't have to have people stick with us for the whole hour and a half. But they're very good discussion, Michael, I think. And anyway, hopefully our audience will enjoy it.